Hello everyone, welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I'm your host Liam, aka Himvar, and today I'm doing my weekly update. This is Liam's Leapings number 52, my update for the 26th of August, 2023. So I read a lot this week. I read 4 books that I quite enjoyed, some more than others, of course, and then 2 books I didn't really enjoy. So I'll go over the ones I enjoyed um, the most first, I think. We'll see kind of how I stacked over here. Excuse me. I also got quite a number of books, but I haven't really been getting a lot recently. Um, but I got some for school and some other books. Um, so let's get right into it. I did shave a little bit. I trimmed it up. I have a job interview on Monday, which I'm really excited for, a little nervous for. I want the job. So we'll see if I get that. But I thought my beard was a little unruly, so I trimmed it. I might need a hair trim. I don't know. Anyways, this is not the first book I finished this week, but I did finish Serpent Mage by Weiss and Hickman. This is book 4 in the Deathgate cycle. This is my favorite book in the series so far. There's 3 more to go. And this one shows us the last of the 4 realms that, the world was split into in this like sundering by the Sartan. And it just is a lot. It's way more interesting than I would say books 2 and 3 are. Book two is pretty good. It's just a little like doesn't seem to relate in large parts. Book 3 is very interesting, but book 4 definitely connects things back to this broader idea of a series, right? The worlds are introduced now. We're just gonna get this conflict over with now, and the character development is very good in this one, even better than it was in Dragonwing. So, Serpent Mage, my favorite of those Deathgate Cycles books so far. I'm not sure when I'll continue and get to book 5, which I don't remember what it's called right now, like Chaos something. So one book, since it's the second in the stack, that I didn't enjoy very much is The Sundered Realm by Robert E. Vardaman. This is the first book and by Victor Malone too. Sorry, first book in the War of the Powers. It's like 6-book or 7-book series. I got them all up there actually from my friend Jerry. Hi Jerry, if you're watching this. And I started a couple actually. So last week I read a couple books. And I said I wouldn't tell you which one they were, and so this is one of them. And I decided to continue it after finishing one of those other books. And the first few chapters I thought were actually okay, and then it just kind of lost me after that. I mean, whatever it was, I just think I wasn't really much in the mood for it, so I didn't really enjoy the rest. But I decided to finish it because it's really short. But I did notice after I had started it and made my somewhat into the book that it's actually published by Playboy, which is weird. I didn't know that. So that explains some of the sexual content in here, which kind of comes off as like an 80s fantasy movie. It's not like a porno, it's not just sex and stuff like that, but it's definitely present. So I didn't really enjoy it all that much. The world building itself was kind of okay. I haven't read anything else by Vardaman, but Milan. I also haven't read anything by Milan, but Milan did write a couple Forgotten Realms novels, so I know I'll read other things by him. I'll probably read more by Vardaman as well because I got so many books by him now. So that was one of the stinkers. So another one of the really good ones, and this might be my favorite book of the 6 I finished this last week. Son of the Black Sword. I mentioned this one last week. I was probably a little over halfway done last week. So I finished it early this week, and I really enjoyed this. I thought this was very, very fun. Kind of itching to get to book 2, to be honest. So this is kind of, just say India-inspired fantasy, I guess. It's got a caste system and stuff kind of like that. So I enjoyed this a lot. It's first in a epic fantasy series. The 5th book that I think is being written now should be the final one. Unless there happens to be a 6th book as well. So this is really fun, though. It's not very popular on BookTube, but it's popular enough in reality with like actual book readers. Not everyone's on BookTube. It's kind of the same with the Deathgate cycle is actually really popular and was quite exceptionally popular in the 90s when Weiss and Hickman were still all the rage. And but you don't really see much about it on BookTube, but it's quite popular. So this is less popular, but it's also much more recent than, say, like the Deathgate cycle. So, yes, Larry Correa, that is a good book by him. Another stinker is Hild by Nicola Griffith. Griffith. I thought I'd like this one more since it's about Hilda of Whitby, or Hild of Whitby, who's a pretty cool historical figure we don't know much about. But if you look up the Synod of Whitby, it's a very, very important like event in history. And she's important in that. But this is mostly fictional. It's a trilogy, actually. The second book comes out in October. I don't know how the heck she's writing a trilogy. The second book is bigger than the first book, and the first book is not small. And that's a mistake. I think this kind of doesn't go anywhere, in my opinion. I mean, it does have a story to it, but and we know she has to end as the abbess of this, of Whitby. But I don't understand. I mean, like, there's some parts that work really well. I think the immersion into the world works mostly well. Maybe it's a little excessive at times. I think the fact that the glossary does not have a pronunciation guide for the Anglo-Saxon is kind of a mistake. I mean, I know how to say it, but most people aren't going to know how to say it. Of course, this is a lot of fictional stuff. It's very speculative in that fact, right? Because we know so little about Hild. She filled up a novel about like her youth, essentially, and made up some things like the Yamacha is made up. But yeah. Anyways, it was okay. I was very disappointed in it though. I thought it'd be better. And this happens like a few times actually. There's books I go in. I'm like, this could be really cool, and they turn out to be really cool, and I end up really liking those. Like the Long Ships or In the Grip of the Minotaur. Books like that kind of. And then there's other ones I go into. I'm like, this could be really cool, and they turn out not to be. And that Hild is one of those. Babel by Kwan I read last year was probably my least favorite book last year. That was another one of those. I thought it could be really good, and it ended up being a big disappointment. So this is a big disappointment. Even though I hear good things about Griffith, I will probably try to read more by Griffith, but I'm really not sure I'm going to read Meanwood at this point. So the last physical novel I finished, because one I need to mention, I don't have a physical copy of, though I'd love one, is The Way of a Dawn, though, is by Philip Chase. But the review already came out for this. Since it's kind of a new release, I decided to push my review up. Book 3 comes out next month. So I really enjoyed this one. It's kind of a similar thing with Hild, actually. It has a chance of being really good, and this actually survives those expectations. This does a good job of taking things I love and doing good things with them. Hild did not, sadly. But you can go watch my review for more thoughts on that. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to Prophet of Adon and book 3. I'm not sure when I'll get to the Prophet of Adon because it is a little slow paced for me, though I hear book 2 is faster paced. The other book I read, which I don't have a copy, and I'm not going to edit this at all, so I won't put a copy up. But if you look up Rhymer by Gregory Frost, just came out in June, so it's a new release as well. This book was awesome. Okay, it's just awesome. I'm on Bane's review list actually, so I downloaded a copy of it a few months ago. Finally got to it. It's about Thomas the Rhymer. It takes place in 12th century Scotland for the most part, and it involves elves, very creepy elves. I thought it was awesome. Some people say the first part is the worst. Like as far as pacing goes, I disagree. I think it's all great. I just love the novel. It's not my favorite of the year. But if it doesn't make my top 10 for the year, it'll almost certainly make an honorable mention. Rhymer's really cool. When it was done, I wanted to read the sequel right then. When then someone at Bain told me they had the manuscript, I was like, gosh dang it, I wish I worked at Bain right now. And I do. But anyways, no. Rhymer. I very much enjoy that. I think a lot of my fans probably would enjoy Rhymer. It's got like a fairy tale feel, like almost like a classic fairy tale feel, like scary and dark. It's almost horror at times. It does get a little bit sexual, which some people might not like. It's done in a really hazy way, so it doesn't. I think it works quite well. And then, but there's a lot of moments of like coziness, and then a lot of moments of where just this extreme anxiety. So I think it worked really well though, and it works as a standalone as well, even though it's a planned trilogy. So that review will actually be out Tuesday as well. So, but you should check it out. Whoever the heck's watching this. I did read a short story this week, Dark Legacy by Mel Odom in this Dragon magazine issue 255. That already went up on my blog, ForgottenRealmsReading.com, or if you look at Forgotten Realms Lyceum, my latest post. I try to get them out on Monday. I likely won't have a post out this Monday, but on Mondays, I tend to, at least a couple times a month, have a post up on Forgotten Realms. So I decided I'd do a short story since I recently read the Threat from the Sea trilogy by Mel Odom. This is a tie-in to that. This story takes place after the prologue to book one, and before anything else, so it's kind of a sequel to the prologue if you kind of want that. From reading Rising Tide, which I did do a review of already on my blog, but also on this channel. Okay, let me double check this before I forget anything. Okay, yeah, I don't have my copy yet, but I did start reading Baldur's Gate by Philip Athens, which is generally considered to be one of the worst Forgotten Realms novels. It's not terrible so far, but I'm not very familiar with the Baldur's Gate games, and so I'm enjoying it. It's not like amazing or anything, but I'm enjoying that. And then Troll Slayer, which gets us to the books I got this week. So I got this one, and I started it. So this is Gotrek and Felix, the first omnibus. It has the first 3 books. Troll Slayer, Skaven Slayer, and Daemon Slayer. It's Warhammer Fantasy. I've read a couple 40k books, which there's a couple reviews on my channel for those. My first Warhammer Fantasy exposure. I've very much heard it's kind of in this vein of Sword and Sorcery, especially like duos like Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser. So far, I'm not liking Gotrek and Felix nearly as much as someone like Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, but that's a high bar, extremely high for those unaware. I love Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser. I think it'll get there though. The first novel is really a fix-up, and I think the rest are like more true novels. And so it really feels like this character is being established, or these characters are, because even in the first character I heard, which was written in '89 and compiled in a novel in '99, the Gotrek was supposed to die at the end of that story, and apparently it did in the first draft. I don't know if that draft ever got published though. So I'm in the 3rd story right now, so I'm not that far in either. And I enjoyed the second story considerably more than the first. The 3rd's okay so far. It's kind of it's got very Tolkien-esque vibes at points, but it's not as good as Tolkien, which is always the problem with like when you got like 80-esque D&D type fantasy. It's like a copy of a copy almost, and you can tell. But King has talents. I'll say that. So definitely has his own unique voice as well. So I started that. I'll probably hopefully finish that this week, and then the next book I'll probably get to. Hopefully. I'm going to get busy this week. So I have that job interview on Monday. I work on Monday as well for the job I currently have. And school starts on Monday, which I'll get to the books for that here in just a second. In fact, I'm still missing one for school. But this is the next book I want to read after Troll Slayer, Larry Correa's House of Assassins, which is the sequel to Son of the Black Sword. I decided to get the hardcover for these because I was talking to Steve Diamond on my channel actually recently. If you go watch that, he co-wrote a book with Larry called Servants of War, which is a book you should read as well. It's like a military fantasy, like World War I, rather than like medieval Europe-esque fantasy. But he's mentioned that the hardbacks get art on the back because they don't really get much art on the cover, as you can tell here. And that's a Barnes & Noble problem, actually. But they get art on the back. And they do. Look at that. There's art on the back. So I was thinking I'd get the hardcovers for the rest of these. And books 3 and 4 are already out. Destroyer of Worlds, I think, is book 3, and Tower of Silence is book 4. This is book 2, House of Assassins. I'm really looking forward to this. Like, really looking forward to it, guys. Like, we're ready to get back to Locke, or Loke, whatever the name of this world is. I like that. It's very much epic fantasy. It does good things I like about epic fantasy, but also incorporates some good sword and sorcery elements as well. Another book I got was Dilvish the Damned by Roger Zelazny. This may be my next Zelazny read, though it'll probably be Jack of Shadows. This is a fix-up novel, a bunch of short stories, and there's a sequel. It's actually a novel. I don't remember what it's called. It's called like The Changing Land, maybe. And I'm looking forward to reading this one. I'm a big fan of Zelazny. I've read his first Amber Cycle, so the first 5, and then I've read Road Marks, which was pretty recently. And then Dilvish the Damned seemed like another good classic sword and sorcery to get, so I could understand more of the classic sword and sorcery. And then I got Dragon and Unicorn by Lynn Avery, and I discovered that this book has this great, is it Gould, I think, art? This is way better than his Elric stuff, I think. Elric just looks weird, though, so I love this art, though. And he actually has pieces throughout the book, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, so here's an example. This is actually a duology, and this is the omnibus of it. I didn't know that. The first book is called Unicorn and Dragon. The second book is called Conquest, but it has both of them in here. I didn't know that. And it even starts with the numbering again when you get halfway through. So it's definitely treating it as 2 books. See, there's Conquest right there. This takes place in 1065 in England, right before the Norman Conquest. It's historical fantasy. I'm a big fan of Lynn Abbey. You'll have reviews going out soon for The Wooden Sword and Beneath the Web, which are sitting comfortably very close to my favorite books of the year so far. So I'm looking forward to reading Moreland Abbey. Karth, if you're watching this, you might want to read Unicorn Dragon, especially if you're a historical fantasy fan, especially if you like Anglo-Saxon history like I do. So yeah, anyways, this looks awesome in many ways than one, because Lynn Abbey wrote it and the art just looks cool. Okay, and then I'm getting I was supposed to get 3 books for class. I'm going to be reading more stuff, but some of that stuff will be online. And I got 2 of those books for class. So I'm taking a class called Literary Copernicus, the Cosmic Fiction of H.P. Lovecraft. And I'm going to read The Ballad of Black Tom, which I believe I read in the second week. This is more of a recent Lovecraftian story by a Black author, if I remember correctly. This is a response. In some ways, it looked like it's a response to the racism of Lovecraft, but keeps it Lovecraftian. I don't really know much else about it besides the fact that it's short, and I'm sure I'll enjoy it. I hear some people think that the ending is rushed. And then I got this huge monster of a book, which is the new annotated H.P. Lovecraft. And I just turned through this bad boy, and it looks amazing. Look, there's a Kylix from Capua. That's funny. The Case of Charles Dexter Ward. So if you don't know what a Kylix is, then you should look it up. It's a good way to get drunk, I guess, if you're at a symposium, in ancient Greece. Symposiums were not what they are today, I'll tell you that much. But yeah, this is a bad boy. 9 weeks. It's a 12-week course. 9 weeks of it, you just spend time reading Lovecraft. So I was looking at the list. I've read some of them already, but not most of them, because I haven't admittedly read a ton of Lovecraft. And there's a couple of Lovecraft stories I have read that we're not reading, so I'm glad I read those. But I'm really looking forward to this. I think that'll be very fun to take a class on Lovecraft. Now, it'd be cooler if there was a class on like Clark Ashton Smith or Robert E. Howard, but Lovecraft, he's obviously more popular than those two, so I can understand it. And maybe one day I can somehow get this school to give classes on Howard and Smith, or even give them someday, obviously, if I ever get there. So anyways, this has been Liam from Liam's Lyceum. Let me know how your week has been. I am very blessed to read great books. Honestly, that's how I feel this week. Even though I had 2 stinkers, I'm very much happy with the great books I read this week. So anyways, what have you been reading? What are you up to? Wish me luck, please. Anyways, I'll catch you next time.